see you all here. Great to be in front of some freedom-loving patriots. There are so many things to talk about, but can anyone remember a time when our country was suffering this much for so many reasons? I mean, think about it. You've got the fuel prices, you've got inflation, you've got the foreign policy debacle in Afghanistan, you've got a border that's wide open. You've got, they just announced this yesterday, the Border Patrol announced 98 suspected terrorists apprehended at the border. It's just one thing after another. And, you know, Joe Biden's making Jimmy Carter seem like an all-star president, isn't he? And never have we been in this much trouble on this many fronts in our country. And the question is, if you ask Joe Biden about it, he says, well, it's Putin's fault, or it's all just happened to him. No, he's brought this upon himself, hasn't he? And worse than that, worse than the damage to our pocketbooks, has been the damage to our republic. Joe Biden has declared war on the Constitution, and we have to fight back and defend our Constitution. As many of you know, before I became Secretary of State in 2011, I was a professor of constitutional law for 15 years at UMKC, and I actually taught the Constitution as written, not the living, breathing Constitution that the liberals like to talk about. But I want to give you a quick, let's say 60-second primer on 5 ways that Joe Biden is attacking our Constitution. And by the way, these 5 ways aren't just me making things up or speculating. These are 5 ways, most of them already recognized as held unconstitutional by the Supreme Court or by other federal courts. Number 1, Joe Biden has denied the First Amendment rights of our men and women in uniform by forcing them to take the vaccine over their religious objection. Is that constitutional? No. It's unconstitutional, that's exactly right. Number 2, Joe Biden has undermined our Second Amendment rights by promoting states adopting red flag laws that allow the seizing of a citizen's arms without any trial and without any finding of probable cause. Is that constitutional? No, of course not. Number 3, Joe Biden has violated the separation of powers, and he just did this a few weeks ago by declaring through executive decree that the federal government was going to spend $500 billion for giving student loans without any input by Congress. Is that constitutional? No. Number 4, Joe Biden has violated the Article 1 powers of the Congress by ordering the EPA and OSHA to adopt regulations that are in violation of federal statute, and the courts have already held that. Is that constitutional? No. Number 5, Joe Biden has violated the Article 2 requirement that the executive faithfully execute the law by ordering ICE agents and Border Patrol officers not only to stop enforcing the law, but to break the law themselves. Is that constitutional? No. This is just a short little list, and it keeps on going. But the point is, this president has done extraordinary damage to the Constitution, and that's 5 ways. I can't think of 5 ways Barack Obama broke the Constitution. He was pretty bad. This is unbelievable what's happening in our country right now. And, to a certain extent, you look at Joe Biden, he's stumbling over his words. He almost seems like he's too feeble to be dangerous. He is dangerous because he's surrounded by people who have no regard, no respect for the United States Constitution. And some people on the left, they say, well, we need to rewrite the Constitution. No, they need to reread the Constitution. Or in the case of Joe Biden, he needs to read it for the first time. And did you notice what happened just yesterday? Yet another violation of the Constitution. I should have added this as number 6. But my friend Steve Bannon has been sentenced to 4 months in prison. What was the horrible crime? What was the crime that Bannon committed? He didn't obey a subpoena from the January 6th committee in Congress. Now, did he hurt anybody? Did he steal anything? Did he commit? No. This is a legalistic crime, and it is something that Eric Holder did as well. Eric Holder defied a congressional subpoena and refused to appear in front of a congressional committee. Did Eric Holder ever go to jail? Did anyone prosecute Eric Holder? What's happening to our country? Steve Bannon's going to be a political prisoner if he goes to jail. Political prisoners in the United States of America? This is like the Soviet Union, what we're talking about. This is like communist China. This is truly a case of a political prisoner. And by the way, he didn't just say, I don't want to go testify because I don't like you people or I don't feel like it. No, he said, I'm not going to testify because the executive privilege protected by Article 2 of the Constitution forbids me from telling Congress the confidential conversation that I had with President Trump. He was saying, there's a constitutional reason why I can't testify, even if I wanted to. And for that, Congress charged him with contempt, and the Justice Department under Merrick Garland is prosecuted him, and now a liberal judge in Washington, D.C. has sentenced him to time behind bars. This should not be happening in America. And you could flip it around and say, well, should Eric Holder have gone to jail? No. You never should force anybody who's having a conversation with the president to disclose what the conversation was about. It's called executive privilege, because if you have those conversations with the president, which I have had and been blessed to have with President Trump, if you know that you could be forced to cough up everything you said in front of Congress, then you're not going to be as frank, are you? You're not going to be as open. You're not going to say everything that needs to be said if it's all going to be disclosed. And that's why executive privilege is so important. It goes all the way back to a Supreme Court precedent from the 1970s, the Nixon case. And that's why Steve Bannon took a constitutional stand saying, even if I wanted to testify, I can't testify because of executive privilege and Article 2 of the Constitution. And for that, he is facing 4 months of imprisonment. Ladies and gentlemen, something is really wrong with our country. And that is why we have the authority and the ability to exercise our right to vote, and we can take this country back on November 8th, and we have to take this country back. And it's not just my race for Attorney General. We need to take this country back in every race, because that sends a message to the other side that we see these violations of the Constitution and we're going to do something about it. We absolutely have to send a message, and then once we have taken those offices, then we act. Then we do things to turn this country around. And the thing, of course, that I'll be doing is we'll be suing Joe Biden. Is that okay? And we've got some more yard signs. They're going fast. We've got about 10 of them here, so take one when you leave, because they need to get up. Oh yeah, we've also got some of the white signs right there too. So take those signs. There's not many days left in this election. We need to get out there, and we need to do the job. And look, the president has violated the Constitution in so many ways already, and he's only 2 years in to his term. Now, what happened when Barack Obama lost control of Congress in 2010, the last time we had a red wave election? Did he suddenly moderate like Bill Clinton and sort of back off his aggressive policies? No. He doubled down, and that's when he said he got out his telephone and his pen, and he started issuing more executive decrees, violating the Constitution in more ways, violating federal statute in more ways. That's what Joe Biden's going to do if Republicans take over the U.S. House of Representatives. You're going to see him violating the Constitution in additional ways beyond the other things. So it's not going to slow down. It'll probably speed up. And that's why we have to be ready to take him to court. And thank God the Founding Fathers created a system with 3 branches of government and an independent judiciary. And thank God President Trump appointed constitutionalist judges, who will, especially on the Supreme Court, who will protect our freedoms. If we didn't have that, we would be truly in a perilous situation in our republic. So we have the ability to set things right after November 8th. And one more thing, I see another speaker is going to be coming up here soon. There's lots of stuff going on at the state level that needs to be changed as well. As you guys probably know, twice the Kansas legislature passed a bill that should have never needed to be passed if we lived in a sane world. They twice passed a bill protecting girls' sports against biological males competing in girls' sports. And you know what happened? What did Kelly do? Vetoed it. Twice. This is unreal. I don't care whether you're Democrat, Republican, male, female. If you have 2 brain cells to rub together, you should know that it's unfair for biological males to be competing in girls' sports. And as the father of 5 girls, I don't want my girls to be competing and then lose first place on the podium because there's a biological male running in the race against them, it's outrageous, it's unfair, and in many ways, if the federal government ever tries to force this on all the schools in America, it'll be unconstitutional as well. Well, I'm hopeful that we will, and the legislature tried to override those vetoes, but we didn't quite have enough. But if we have a Republican governor, we will have enough. And we need a Republican governor, and that's why Derek Schmidt has got to be elected. The governor's race has consequences, and the biggest one is if we don't have a Republican governor, we have to get to 2/3 to pass these statutes. If we have a Republican governor, we only need 50% plus one. And I can tell you, as somebody who's been working the phones during these past 2 years, trying to get Republican legislators to vote for conservative bills, it's tough. You may recall the statute that we passed on firearms that gives 18 to 20-year-olds the right to concealed carry if they take the course, which is particularly important to me because my eldest daughter is 18, and I want her to be able to protect herself walking through that parking lot at night. That bill was vetoed by Governor Kelly, and we passed it with exactly the number of votes needed to hit 2/3. And they didn't just line up. They had to be persuaded and cajoled and told and pressed to please vote for this bill. That bill should have been a layup. That bill should have been so easy to pass. But when you don't have the executive branch under Republican control, conservative bills are really, really hard to get passed. So there will be many things else besides just protecting women's sports. I have a feeling that our state is going to have to take a stand against the Biden administrations in ways we haven't even foreseen yet. And we need to be able to do it with a Republican in the governor's office. And so that's why I'm throwing my support behind Derek Schmidt, and I hope you will too. Oh yeah, and then of course, yeah, that's another point, the food tax, and I'll let Derek talk about this too. But yeah, she also vetoed the reduction, the elimination of the sales tax on food, not once but twice. And now you're seeing these ads saying how she, on the third time around, she finally decided, since she was up for re-election, that she would go ahead and sign it. This is the story that keeps replaying itself over and over again. Democrats in Kansas pretend when it's election time that they're middle of the road. They work with Republicans. Yeah, they pretend at this one particular time, and they take a few symbolic actions to try to make it seem that way. But the rest of the time, they are hard left, and they're doing as much damage to our Constitution, almost, as Joe Biden's administration is. And that's why we have to spread the word about the truth of all of these issues. But let me just conclude where I started, ladies and gentlemen. It's not just our pocketbooks. It's our republic. Our Constitution is under assault by this president, by his Justice Department with their latest actions yesterday against Steve Bannon. It just goes on and on and on. We will not live in a country where there are political prisoners, will we? And we will not live in a country where our Constitution is just a hollow shell and means nothing, will we? We are going to win this fight, and this fight will happen on November 8th, and once that occurs, we can turn this ship around. Thank you so much.